Hello and welcome back to another Walking Dead video, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the most controversial moments in the whole series, and that is the death of Rhee. This death is so hated by the fans, many people just stopped watching after the events of Season 7 Episode 1, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. Many people say the death of Glenn ruined the show. However, in this video I'm going to argue why Glenn's death did not ruin the show, and that his death is one of the most important moments in the whole show. So sit back, relax, and let's dive right into understanding why Glenn had to die. So one reason why Glenn had to die is because of the story. The death of Glenn is a big moment of the story, and that death really changes a lot about The Walking Dead. And it is meant to show the protagonists, and Rick Grimes especially, that they might have beaten the walkers, but danger is still out there, and that the world is still brutal. If only Abraham died, Rick would have not have been as affected, and no one else really could fill this role. So Glenn was really the only character that was close enough to Rick at this point to get the point across, outside of Carl and maybe Daryl, but they are too important and popular to die here. So the big moment fell to Glenn. This death also does a lot more than just setting up the Saviour arc and breaking Rick Grimes. The death of Glenn is so important to many characters' development, and Glenn needed to die so that many characters could get the development they needed. This death further develops Maggie into being a strong and capable leader, and that almost rivals Rick Grimes as a leader. The death also develops Negan as a character and the dynamic he has with Maggie. If Glenn never died, Maggie and Negan would never get the development their characters needed, and they would become stale and nothing characters. If Glenn stayed alive, he would have continued to develop into a strong leader himself, taking that story from Maggie, leaving her in his shadow and giving her nothing to do or to develop with. For Negan, without this death, there is no rivalry with Maggie, and Negan would not have much to do in the later seasons, as he would become a more boring character with a simple redemption arc. And that is why his death is needed. Unlike many other deaths in the show, Glenn's death is used to further other characters' development. Glenn is also one of a few characters who still played a role in The Walking Dead long after his death. The backbone of Season 11 is the Maggie and Negan rivalry, and without this death, the final season would be drastically different. He's one of the few characters who are never forgotten, and he is used to build up other characters. However, I do understand why people do not like this death. Glenn was the heart of the show, and one of the most likable characters. His death was needed, but it should have been done differently, and with more respect. The way Glenn died was too much for many, and having him die because Daryl punched Negan was just poor writing. I get what the writers wanted to do, but they maybe should have not done that with Glenn's. I believe Glenn should have died first, and they should have made it quick for him. Don't have it focus on the horror and gore like they did in the show. His death just deserved more respect for the character, and if they did that, maybe more people would have stayed and less people would say that the death of Glenn ruined the show. And that is my thoughts on why Glenn needed to die. I may not agree on how it happened like many people, but I do think that Glenn's death was needed for the development of others and the story that they were telling. It is just the delivery which sucks, not the actual death itself, I believe. And this is it for me today, so thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.